Welcome back to Combat Sports Weekly. This is the part of the show where we take a look at the national and local headlines as well as the highlights, but it's always the headlines first. We started off with some national and, I guess, local headline here at the very top. Amber Brown out of Fit NHB looking to become just the third native New Mexican to win a major world MMA title came up short in her bid this weekend, succumbing to a third-round submission. Armbar 2 champion Ayaka Hamasaki. For those that haven't seen this fight, it is on UFC Fight Pass, a great grappling match between the two. Amber Brown definitely showed her, obviously presence as one of the top 5, top 10 atomweight fighters in the world. So unfortunately, New Mexico came up short in that one, but I bet it won't be the first time we see Amber Brown challenging for that title. Speaking of title challengers, Austin Trout, the former WBA super welterweight champion, might have a date against Jermall Charlo. The fight is rumored to take place as the co-headliner on an April 30th StubHub Center card in Carson, California. The main event that evening will feature a rematch between Andre Berto and Victor Ortiz. We'll discuss the potential match in our roundtable and also the potential of another title fight should Trout turn this one down. So obviously 2 title fights on the line for Trout. He can pick one or the other. We'll let you know who his other opponent is. 2 guys that will be fighting this weekend, unfortunately not for a world title, but a former champion in his own right. Frank Mir will be taking on Mark Hunt. Again, that's Saturday night here in Brisbane, Australia, which will be taking place Sunday there. The fight between the 2 veteran heavyweights is a close one according to the odds makers. Hunt a slight -170 favorite, while Mir is hovering as a +145 underdog. Of course, our round table will have predictions on that one later. I'm going to let you guys know I'm going with the upset in that one, so it won't be no surprise later on. A couple of guys, former world champions. Again, we talked about former world champions in MMA. These 2 guys in boxing, Juan Diaz and Mike Alvarado, are set to make their respective returns on Unimas this weekend. The former world champions will be participating in separate bouts. Diaz was last in action September of 2014, while Alvarado last saw action in January of 2015. Again, this fight taking place in Houston, live on Unimas for those of you that have a satellite provider there. So that'll do it for the national headlines. Let's jump right into the local ones. Start off with some news that surprised us and weren't so surprising just because of what we've seen in the past from Zab Judah, but his fight against Josh the Pitbull Torres, of course, who fights out of Albuquerque, was canceled right before their weigh-ins on Friday afternoon after what the Nevada State Athletic Commission claimed, misrepresenting information that was provided by Judah and his promoter on the fighter's licensing application. Judah, through Engelbrecht, who's his promoter, had marked on his application that there were no current financial liens against Judah, which turns out to be incorrect, as he owes child support. So, guys, make sure you guys are paying your child support. That way you guys can fight in big money fights. Poor Josh Torres loses out on the biggest fight of his career in that one. Another guy from formerly one of Josh Torres' old camps, Hector Munoz. This guy's the travel man is what we're going to end up calling him. He'll be facing former Canadian Olympian Custio Clayton in Canada Thursday night. It's another short notice fight for Munoz. Weights from Wednesday: Clayton 151.8 pounds, Hector Munoz 151.6. We'll update you on our Facebook page to let you know the results on that one, as obviously we're airing Thursday night and the fight's taking place around the time of this original airing. More news on the Albuquerque front. Andres Quintana, one of the top prospects in the entire state and the region of the U.S. here in the Southwest, will be facing Prentice Ingram from Colorado at Jackson's MMA Series 18. Again, this fight's taking place April 1st at the Pueblo Convention Center in Pueblo, Colorado. Tickets for that one are available online at the PuebloConventionCenter.com website. More news on that card as fight night approaches. One fight night that is approaching here quickly, Saturday night, King of the Cage fight game will feature a headlining act at the Embassy Suites here in Albuquerque. Again, the main event will feature Fit NHB's Tim Sosa as he takes on Oklahoma prospect Jimmy Flick. Flick holds a 7-1 record Our guest segment today will be filled by Tim Sosa himself, so you'll get to hear what he expects out of that fight and what he expects from the card overall. So a pretty good fighter in his own right will be joining us here this afternoon. That'll do it for the local and national headlines. Let's run with the highlights. A couple of weeks old, but nonetheless pretty important ones. Here we go. It was a big one that took place a couple of weekends ago. Holm and Miesha Tate. Holm keeping the distance. Very technical and methodical in her approach, but it was 2 takedowns in the fight that proved to be, to show her in some danger. That rear naked choke at the end of the second round failed. She was able to control the hands and keep Miesha from fully implementing it. Here we go in the 5th round. With just a minute and a half left in the fight, Miesha Tate was able to crank that and hold it on. Again, Miesha Tate defeating Albuquerque's Holm via that rear naked choke. We move on to the main event that night between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, one of the better fights that you'll actually see in a main event. This is a non-title fight that took place. These guys were just trading. They decided to box. Not a whole lot of kicking going on in this one. Nate Diaz was able to withstand an early storm from Conor McGregor and was able to lay down the ground and pound and ultimately sinking in a rear naked choke of his own. Nate Diaz, 4-1 underdog, winning that one. Huge, huge win. Here's a pretty entertaining fight that most people may have missed that same night. Saddam Ali and Jesse Vargas. Vargas, I've been on record for not being his biggest fan, but he looked great in this fight. He's now asking for a rematch against Timothy Bradley. Obviously, Bradley's tied up right now with a fight against Manny Pacquiao looming, but unbelievable power punching and accuracy demonstrated by Jesse Vargas in this one. Vargas celebrating the fight stopped by the referee. Some pretty good highlights there from Jesse Vargas. So Jesse Vargas, sorry for all the smack I've been talking about you before in the past. But that'll do it for our headline segment. After the break, Tim Sosa from NHB.